Everybody, welcome to the online version of the Meet the Expert. My name is Gasparotti Mauro. I'm the director of Savills Hotels. Savills Hotel is a separate division of Savills Group, specialized in hotel, consultancy, brokerage, and asset management. Myself and my team are based in Ho Chi Minh City, but we supervise the consultancy for Southeast Asia, or at least we did it when we could travel. So as always, we talk about recovery. We've been doing different webinars already. This one is pretty important because we will look at 1 month after Vietnam opened to business. So we'll see into the recovery of this country. We have a 2-hour webinar, so please stay with us the whole time. We have a very interesting presentation, a lot of data, a lot of insight, and a very good forecast from a panel of experts. Now, you will be able to interact with us. You'll be able to write through the chat. My team will be able to respond you. So please feel free to ask a question, and we'll pass it to the experts at the right time. And we'll be able also to have your opinion during the whole webinar. Before we move into the part, I would like to start with a pretty big thanks to all the people that have supported this exercise, from Vietnam Airlines, Saigon Tourist, VRR, and of course all the speakers that will be with us, Vietnam Tourist Association, everybody that is really part of this information sharing exercise. The agenda today will divide into 3 parts. So as they say before, 2 hours to an hour and a half. The first part will be looking into presentation and numbers. The second part, we have what we call one-to-one elevator speech. So I will interview some of the industry experts. And the third part, we'll look into a panel to really see what is the opinion of people that work in hospitality and live in this country. But before we go all the way through giving the microphone to our expertise, I would like to share with you some slides just to set the base of all the charts that we're going to have today. Starting with the global tourist, you will probably find this slide a few times today during the presentation. Global tourist is something that everybody's been talking about this year because of the situation that we are living. But global tourist is actually been growing for the last 70 years. We went from 25 million people to almost 1.46 billion last year. So really strong growth. We all come it all come as a part of everybody life, the hospitality business. A lot of contribution of this growth in the last few years was what we call mega trends, which is all the changes that are happening around us that impact the way we live and, of course, the way we travel. Now, we always choose 4 that we believe have a strong impact into the hospitality business, and we often do webinar or seminar or conference just on those specific topics. The technology has a tremendous impact in the way we travel. It makes it much safer and much faster, changing consumer behavior. When people move from buying goods into buy experience, and this is a very good news for the hospitality world, changing demographic also has a tremendous impact into the travel industry with this great jump of middle class in the next 10 years, especially in this part of the world that will allow much more people to travel, senior population growing, and they are also big travelers and millennial travelers. So we'll touch some of those categories later during the whole webinar. So hospitality was living this momentum of growth in the last few years. However, hospitality business and tourism is very fragile business as well. We saw few drop in the last few years already. The graph show few of the situation where the international tourism dropped, but nothing was closer to what will happen in 2020. Looking specifically into Vietnam, the growth of this country was enormous. In the last 10 years, We grow 3 times the global tourism. We grow 2 times the Asia-Pacific tourism. So we had this tremendous growth that the whole country was getting this very good momentum. Vietnam went from being an experience destination into a holiday destination. We had 18 million people last year. But what is interesting to notice that we are targeting 30 million in a few years. Now, 30 million starts to be a considerable number. 30 million is what Thailand was a few years back. So hospitality for Vietnam will become a very important part of the economy. Last year, as you see, the international arrivals was pretty decent. January this year was still a good month, and then everything dropped. But we are on the way to recover. We start to open to business almost 1 month ago, and we start to see a lot of opening. Almost 75% of the total hotel in Vietnam reopened, which is pretty remarkable. In a different destination with a different path, Ho Chi Minh City, Hanoi has completely reopened, or almost completely reopened. Drive-by destination like Ho Chi Minh has also reopened. In a beach destination, we start to see different paths, a bit more cautious, but still more than 60% of the property has reopened and more to come. The performance of those properties is something we will touch it later with STR and Oyo, showing actually the occupancy and the STR and the ADR of those properties. Just to give you a brief, it's growing, but it's still not what we would call a comfortable zone. The project also has been slowed down, the under construction and the opening. We expected 49 opening at the beginning of the year. We will probably end having 26 resort and hotel opening for 2016. So almost half of the project has been delayed by a few months. Everything is still moving, everything is still in the right path, just few delays. But it's interesting to see the dynamic of the demand in Vietnam. Now, there are a lot of advantages in this country. Those are just 3 of the elements that we see are important to analyze. One is that Vietnam rely a lot into local demand. Some of the destinations like Phu Quoc and Da Lat has more than 90% local tourists over international tourism, and this is a very good sign, because we know that in the next few months it will all be a local market. The second important element is the outbound Vietnamese tourists, which is pretty considerable. 8.6 million people last year travel from Vietnam overseas at a very high growth rate of 13% in the last few years. So somehow Vietnamese that usually will travel overseas will travel within their country this year. The third important part to be seen is the fact that Vietnam relies a lot into Asian travelers. So 80% of the total travelers, international travelers to Vietnam, come from Asia, which will be an advantage in a situation like this, where we expect to open to Asian market first. And also we may probably see Asian travelers that will go to Europe or to US. Normally, this year we choose a closer destination and meet more safe destination. That could be another good news for Vietnam. So it's all about the ability of this country and every country to enter into what we call travel bubble, which is really the intention of some country to start to open the travel path with other countries that are considered safe. Some countries will open the whole market first, others will select probably just some part of it, especially the one that have islands like Vietnam, Thailand, Philippines, Indonesia. They could actually start with some of the parts, some of the island first, but all of this is still under discussion for a lot of governments. Okay, so I think those are just, as I promised, a quick 5 slides, really to set a bit of base for everything that we take on into the seminar, and lot of data and lot of expertise level. I would like it to move to present the first part of the event today, where we will look into 4 different presentations from our industry experts. We have STR, Vietnam Airlines, Oyo, and Fusion sharing with us some of the data. We will start first with Ms. Fenadi Uriarte, Business Development Manager of Southeast Asia, STR. Fenadi, I hope you are connected there. If you can just open the video and show us your face and the voice.
Good morning.
Yes, beautiful. Thank you very much. All is good, all is great. So what I will do, I will just hand over to you. Hopefully you have a control of the slide. Please take us through the whole situation of Vietnam and maybe a bit also into Southeast Asia.
Right. Thank you, Mauro. Thank you for having me back again in this e-series for Vietnam Forum. So 1 month after the Vietnam's opening, let me change my slide. So what's the performance look like? Is the demand for hotel rooms back? Before I proceed to the numbers, I just want to share you some resources, some additional resources aside from this webinar. If you would go to, when you have some time, if you would go to str.com, we have been sharing also valuable insights and resources in data, especially to the impact of COVID to our industry. So do visit our website for scheduled analysis, blogs, webinars. So you will find this in this section. Thank you. So now let's go to the global impact of COVID. Now, what we can see here, it's not really a pretty sight. What we have done is we did have some cluster or a buckets of occupancy. So this is a global picture. You see a lot of reds and orange and some greens. So the reds obviously are some critical numbers. So we have put them, those red are the markets where occupancy is from 0 to 25%. And obviously what you can see is majority are in the red buckets. But there are some rare sites of light blue, which falls under 50 to 75%. Also, like I said, it's very, very rare. And in Asia, Philippines and Singapore are two of some of the markets that has been rescued by some government initiatives. So they are part of those light blue, whereby better occupancy compared to the rest. But in reality, what has been our numbers for the last few months? Okay, let me change that to the next slide. Okay, so it really stuns us, this beast called COVID-19. It's really hitting our economies. Some economies are in the brink of recession. It's hurting us. Even if the Philippines is working around 50% occupancy, 47 to 50% occupancy for May, for example, it's still the lockdowns in the market, for example, was really hitting. So the economy is contracting in 34 years. So that's really, really bad for the economy. In Vietnam, which is I would say better performing because of the easing of restriction has been done early this May. So obviously one of the better situations, but majority we've seen mass unemployment, real demand has dropped to almost zero, and many hotels are closed. And earlier Mauro has mentioned also that at least 75% now of the hotels are back in Vietnam. So, but in many major markets, there's still a lot of hotels that are closed. So there's also flight restrictions. There's a lot of parked airplanes. So that is also fueling the drop of the demand to almost zero. But I would say now it's June. Many of the markets are looking forward for June, because this is when a lot of markets are going to open up. So the few markets that has opened up in May is Thailand, Vietnam, and also Malaysia. But just for the last few days, Singapore and the Philippines has already eased their, Philippines has eased the lockdown. And while Singapore has already reached the end of the circuit breaker yesterday. Okay. So travel obviously is hit hard. As you can see here from this graph. However, there is resilience in the air as per World Tourism Organization. So it shows that if you would look at the historical performance, the travel industry has been resilient even, with the SARS, the global financial crisis in 2009. Although with COVID-19, it's a totally different beast to tackle because it has obviously impacted the travel and the hospitality industry in the last 2 to 3 months, right? Okay. Now, this is also another pretty picture in terms of government restrictions. So I will go back to earlier. I showed you the buckets of occupancies, the reds, the greens, and the light blues. But here, what we can see here are the recovery drivers. So the reds are those markets with enforced closures. Some has been open, as you can see here. A tiny bit there would be the Vietnam market, already open. So this is based on our census, and what we have seen is that there's a lot of hotel closures, about 38% in our census database globally. If we would look further outside Asia, we've seen South Africa a bit lockdown. There is a lockdown, but restaurants are already quite opening, but not allowed to open for more than 50 people. New Zealand is now starting to open. It's red now in this slide, but just a few days ago, they already have announced that they have eliminated the COVID situation. South Korea was in lockdown. Unfortunately, the reopening has had some cases again. So for South Korea, it's like walking in thin ice because it's a bit tricky. They really need to balance off the opening of the commerce. Now, Vietnam, obviously, like I said, has been, we have seen an orange there. It's already open with the decisive, thanks to the decisive action of the government. But generally in Asia, occupancy has remained in bad to dire situation, even if some hotels has opened. Okay, the next slide. Okay, hold on. Now,
Yes, I think we do have a bit of connection problem. Fenadi was taking this call from home. Hopefully she will be able to be back soon. What I will do, actually was very interested in the whole part. Unfortunately, we probably need to skip some and move to the next presenter directly, but we will be back as soon as Fenadi she's online, because she was actually touching on the market. Mr. Khan Vo, Deputy General Manager, Strategic Division of Vietnam Airlines. Mr. Khan, are you with us? Yes.
Can you hear me
well? Thank you very much. So we're very happy to have Vietnam Airlines with us. It's very important for us and for everybody else to know what the strategy will be, to know what the intention will be of reopening the communication and both internal and international flight. So we have, I believe, 7-slide presentation that Mr. Khan will share with us, taking us through a bit into the data that we have on the airline. So please, Khan, if you can control, I'll leave it to you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mauro. Thank you for your introduction. And thank you for giving me a chance to be here today to share a little bit some of the insights of the air transportation industry. So today, for my part, I will share with you some information regarding the impacts of the COVID-19 on the air transportation industry, some kind of future outlook of the industry for the next 5 years, and how Vietnam Airlines and Vietnam air transportation market are doing right now. So in this slide, you can see this is a study of International Air Transportation Association. So regarding the impact of COVID-19 to the industry. So everyone can agree that COVID-19 is a global pandemic, but for people in the aviation industry, it's not only a pandemic, it's a unprecedented crisis. So this study of the IATA has shown us 90% of the global capacity has gone down due to COVID-19. And compared to previous global or regional diseases such as MERS, SARS, H5N1, and even the event 9/11, the impact from COVID-19 is much more severe. It's create much more damage to the industry than the other disease or events. In this, another story from IATA. So at this moment, 50% of the world's passenger jets are grounded. So it's the same case in Vietnam. However, thanks to the rebounds of domestic market, airlines in Vietnam have deployed about 50-60% of their fleet at the moment. And the worst is coming. Airlines are running out of cash. So based on the data of IATA, the median airlines has only about 2 months of cash to pay all their bills without having any revenue. So at this moment, every airline will try hard to generate cash flow. You can see lots of deals online. Air tickets can be sold at a never seen before price. And as far as I know, at this moment, about 15 airlines in the world has declared bankrupt at this time. In the Southeast Asia region, we have heard about Thai Airways, one of the full service carrier, flag carrier, has been declared bankrupt a couple days ago. So how will airlines, how will the industry recover? What could be scenarios for the recovery for the air transportation industry? As you can see here, can you see the my slide? It's still turning around. Here we are.
Very well, thank you.
Yeah, here we are. So this one is a study from McKinsey. Basically, this is a study of McKinsey in which they have built up multiple scenarios for recovery by asking executives, CEOs in all over the world, how will be the recovery for the world after COVID-19. So all scenarios are based on two key factors. On the vertical side, you can see is the first factor, which is how is the spread of the COVID-19? Can public health system contain the virus? And on the horizontal, the second factor is how economic policy responds to the impact of the COVID-19. And based on McKinsey studies, the most likely scenarios are going to be the A1 and A3. So 16% of the executives of the answers chose that A3 going to be the scenarios, and 31% of people chose the A1, which like is the L safe, and the A3 is the U safe. And for Vietnam airline markets, I would say the domestic market going to be something similar to the A3 model. And for the international market, it seems like A1 going to be the model for the recovery. So what going to be the future for the next 5 years? It's
Mr. Khan, yes, we're here with you.
Yeah, I'm trying waiting for the slide to come up. But
It's already up.
here we are. So this study for IATA showed that for the domestic flights, the recovery is going to be earlier in terms of the whole international domestic flights for the whole world. It can be fully recovered on 2022. For Vietnam market, I guess it's going to be much earlier. Maybe we can be recovered fully 100% at the level of 2019 at the end of this year. However, for the international part, it's a tricky part because it depends on the situation of the COVID-19, and especially it depends on the governments, how they will lift the travel restriction. That will impact the demand for international flights. So based on this study, the international market can be fully recovered after 2024. So we will not see as much of international passenger as 2019 for the next 5 years. And at the end of my presentation, this is some of key current numbers which represent the situation of Vietnam air transportation market at this moment. So 1.1% is the recovery rate, the recovery demand of international flight at this moment. 56% is how the domestic flights has been recovered at May 2020 compared to May 2019. 733,000 is the average price of a air ticket for domestic flights at this moment. So it's represent only 50% of what we have been sold last year. So this is a never seen before price for air ticket in Vietnam. 81% is the load factor on our domestic flight this month, which is pretty good. We reached the same level as we had last year. And 90% is the recovery rate of our number of flights on domestic routes. So we have recovered pretty quick and strong on domestic. So that is some insight from Vietnam air transportation market. Hopefully it can help you guys something to predict the future or to manage your situation at the moment for hospitality industry.
Thank you, Khan. That was very good. I really, I'm still looking into this number of the last slide. So it's very interesting, especially this 90% capacity of the domestic road after just a month of reopening. As we mentioned before, hotel are full speed reopen, much stronger than a lot of other destinations. Thailand somehow, which actually they are allowed to open, but they are waiting international tourists to come to truly open the whole business, while Vietnam was much more brave and hoping of a faster recovery. And this is also obviously from Vietnam Airlines side, they also want the recovery to happen fairly soon. It's good to see that already 56% of the domestic passengers are back. International passengers, yes, we all know that, as we discussed before, it will all be about the ability of each government to actually find a way to start to reopen. Thank you very much. And thank you also for being brief, because it allows us to actually go back to Fenedy, which if you open the video, she should be connected and keep taking us through the data of the ADR and occupancy of the country. Fenedy, are you connected? Okay, seems that we still have the same problem, so we still keep trying. That's the beauty of the webinar compared to a normal conference. So I would like it to pass it to the next presenter directly. Mr. Dushyant Dibey from Oyo is the country head of Oyo Hotel and Homes in Vietnam. They've been very busy in the last few months, as everybody, both through the expansion, but also through managing all the situation of closing and opening. Dushyant, are you with us? Can you open the video and give us a sign?
How are you doing?
Excellent. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Okay, beautiful. So I'll pass to you directly on the slide so that you can take us through. We will really like to know from your side about this recovery, how the mid-scale market is also doing. Please share with us some data and give all your opinion into the future.
Absolutely. I'll try to keep it very, very short and focus on two aspects, exactly on the recovery of the mid-scale hotels and how does the post-COVID scenario look for Vietnam in particular. So to start off the presentation, what I would like to take you through is a brief intro of Oyo if you're not aware of our brand. Oyo started about 6 years ago as there was a huge disconnect. Traditionally, we've seen a big disconnect between the demand and supply of quality living spaces. And Oyo uses technology and talent to fix that problem, which is even more relevant in these times on how do we leverage technology to really help all the small and independent hotel owners to reach their maximum potential. And what we have been able to do in the short span of 6 years that Oyo has been present, as we have expanded into 35,000 hotels, homes and managed living spaces in 800 cities and about 80 countries. Oyo Vietnam in particular, a very critical market for Southeast Asia for us, has expanded to 16 cities with more than 500 hotels within a year of operation. Just let's look at some data in recovery phase, especially after the markets have opened up here in Vietnam. And I'll just take you through directly to a slide with a lot of data around how we have seen recovery, especially in the mid-scale hotel space. And as you can clearly see that the drive-by destinations have actually seen massive recovery, especially post the lockdown has opened up. And in particular, we see recovery in Vũng Tàu, Dalat, Phan Thiết, Can Tho, and Ha Long over the weekends. Over the weekend surges in these cities has really driven a good recovery. And we have seen some of our hotels touching even 90% plus occupancy post the lockdown has opened up. Hanoi and Ho Chi Minh has been increasing week on week, but the uptake is very, very slow. And we have really not seen much demand in the flyby holiday destinations here in Vietnam. Looking at this, what we can really see from data is, again, a comparative study between the drive-by and fly-by markets. And as you can clearly see, over the weekends, we've seen almost a 4 to 5 times more demand coming into the drive-by markets. And that's primarily driven because the international arrivals are completely closed. And this is, again, the push from the domestic market. And this trend we continue to see, and we will probably see in the market till the time we have international arrivals opening up, which is scheduled for 1st of July. How do we see, what are the key aspects that we want to focus for rest of the year? And if you look at it, we did an internal and external survey for all the OYO guests, particularly in the mid-scale segment. And what we found out that 85% of the users and the guests would like a competitive pricing. Second, hygiene measures in the hotels where they would want to stay. So these are the two biggest factors that we see going to be continuing for the rest of the year. And OYO has decided to really focus on these two aspects to drive efficiency for all our hotel partners and provide the right sort of a guest experience for all our guests. And our dynamic pricing algorithm is the best suited in the industry, especially in these uncertain times, to take advantage of maximizing the revenue potential for all our partners more than any other algorithm that we see in the market. Because it's dynamic, it's real time, and the pricing changes adapt to a very, very uncertain demand pattern very, very quickly, and allows all of our partners to maximize their revenue potential based on the demands that they will see. Second, this is something that we've started post-COVID, and we are launching OYO Sanitized Stay globally. And this is again driven by the consumer demand that we see and the consumer expectations around hygiene in particular, especially in a post-COVID environment. The key elements of OYO Sanitized Stay is essentially around these 7 aspects. We're looking at hygiene adherence, we're looking at guest safety, staff safety, a zero-touch check-in, check-out experience, a complete staff training, and also incorporating social distancing measures, plus having a hotline around guest medical support if required. And all of these combined will ensure that any guest coming into an OYO, staying at a OYO Sanitized Stay, is completely ensured of all of these hygiene standards that we follow. We have a deeper, very, very detailed SOP that all our hotel partners are going to be taking up to ensure that these hygiene standards are completely global, and we are able to really provide the best in class guest experience for any guest coming in and staying with OYO. And we are going to be launching a campaign around how we are going to promote sanitized stay, and we're going to be certifying a lot of our hotels that are in adherence to these SOPs and processes that we have developed. And we are also going to be initiating for our hotel partners to support them by additionally tagging in an additional premium value around these sanitized stays. So these are the 2 key aspects that we want to focus, and most of the mid-scale hotel operators should be looking at is pricing, hygiene standards, and focus on these areas to really, really capture the demand that we see in the rest of the year. So that's all I had for you guys today, and hope you guys really, really look at the data and see how we can build a better ecosystem in the country and really drive growth in the absence of the market. And there will be slight dips, of course, but let's make 2020 the best and at least drive to maximize the potential that we can using technology. Hi, Mauro.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Stay 1 second. Just a quick question for you. Will the mid-scale recover fast than the upper upscale market? Do you see this in other countries? That's usually the statistic I see, but do you see that coming in Vietnam?
Yes, we do see, and that's primarily driven because of two factors. One, we do see domestic travel will recover much faster. And traditionally, domestic travel has seen sort of a potential, and the priority of domestic travel and the ARRs have been around the mid-scale hotels. So we do see that trend to continue, especially in Vietnam, for the rest of the year.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much again. We'll have to have you a bit longer for a lot of other questions, but we need to keep going. So thank you very much. Fenady, she's trying still to connect. We still give her a bit of time to come in. I would like to move to the next presenter directly, Mr. Akshay Moza, Chief Commercial Officer of Fusion Hotel Group. Akshay, if you connected and you can hear us, please open the video. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Akshay. So we'll leave you taking us through a bit more information about Fusion, what you guys are doing in Vietnam, what's the expansion plan, the different brands, a bit of performance in terms of these first months of reopening and what are intentions for the future. But also from you, we'd like to know about the wellness market for local travelers. Is this wellness component helping actually the local travelers' demand to grow for Fusion? I believe you have a few slides and you can control it. Please take us through that.
Hello. Hello.
Please, okay, you are connected. Please take us through the slide.
Right. Thanks, Mauro. I mean, to start with, I would just like to talk about just a background about what's happening in Fusion. Currently, we are operating 7 hotels, and of course, we've been in the market for almost 12 years, mostly remembered as a wellness brand. Obviously, pre-COVID, we had or have. And of course, considering what's happening in the market at the moment, we have additional 5 resorts coming up. We have a couple of brands we've been working on at the moment. And of course, I mean, people who know Fusion know us from the Fusion Resorts point of view. But we have another very mid-scale brand which absolutely does very well is the Fusion Suites. And in the future, we're looking at expanding the wellness vertical. We're coming out with Fusion Residences and Fusion Retreats. And this is something we really are focusing on because considering what's happening with the coronavirus situation, we feel that the market is slightly shifting towards the wellness and well-being markets and resorts. Moving on. Considering what's happened in post-COVID, a lot of our focus has changed to, I would say, the domestic market. And as you can see on my slide, which is year-on-year domestic market, compared to last year in 2019, we've seen exponential growth when it comes to revenue growth compared to last year for the domestic. Looking at Phu Quoc, which obviously is one of the key destinations within Vietnam, where I would say that compared to a lot of other destinations, this was pretty much COVID-free. And this is one of the hotels which we decided during the entire March to June, we would keep it open. And we saw a growth, barring April, that there was a 23% increase when it came to domestic travel. Of course, at the moment, we've seen that Cam Ranh, Fusion Maya, Fusion Suites Da Nang, we had to close for obvious reasons because the Da Nang local government insisted on closing all the properties. However, if you see the revenue growth model on the books, we can definitely see an incremental increase in the domestic market. Besides the Phuket property, one property of ours which really did well has been the Alba in Hue. Alba, obviously, it's nestled way, it's away from all the other key destinations, and we saw that the market growth was incremental when it came to weekends. Because see, what really works for us is, of course, what the domestic market is, and that's something that came up in the market also, was that a model which was staycation and quarantine within the villas. And as we know, our business model really revolves around pool villas. And sorry, can you hear me? You can hear me, yeah? Now, of course, what happens within our markets is that obviously pool villas has been a very good strategy in terms of positioning the product during the COVID period. Now, saying that, how does the outlook look? We have the international markets where Fusion heavily relied on them. North Asian markets, Korea, Japan, China, Hong Kong, which of course is completely on a halt. But what we've seen is that the trend is that we are recovering in terms of a lot of last-minute bookings. Almost 50% of the domestic market says that they would like to go ahead and stay for a minimum length of stay of 2 to 3 nights. Domestic market has opened up. Our Fusion Suites Wintao property, which just recently opened, is full over the weekends, running an average occupancy of 20 to 30% during the weekdays. We've seen in one of our assets in Ho Chi Minh that the MICE market has opened up suddenly. We are getting a lot of inquiries, and I'm talking purely domestic Vietnamese market. Yes, definitely, it looks promising. However, saying that, we will see a struggle within 2020 for a simple reason that we have to realign our strategy. We have to start focusing, even though Vietnam always featured in the top 5 destinations, but majority of the share was taken by the North Asian countries. So I think not just ourselves, a lot of other chains are realigning their strategy, focusing on the domestic market. Although saying that, overall, Fusion has seen an incremental drop in occupancies from last year, and of course, at an average of 20 to 30% drop in the ADRs. So I feel that going forward, it will be a highly price-sensitive market. Strategies will have to change, focusing on the weekday and weekend split. I would say, personally, in my opinion, is if we at all see a recovery, this recovery would be seen post Q1 2021. And till then, we really have to come up with a lot of tacticals. We have to target the domestic market. And of course, as we all know, that the domestic market is really seasonal. But definitely, the future looks bright because this has opened up a very big market share for domestic players. I think the 5-star market needs to realign as well. And the 4-star market obviously would feel really comfortable. Fusion has also planned that we want to get into the 3-star deluxe space. So by next year, we will be launching another brand, which is called the Hive. Initially, the strategy of Hive was that we wanted to purely focus on the industrial markets and industrial areas. But I think looking at the way the market is progressing, we might come into the city also, where we would be launching this brand. And this would be, I would say, anything between 3-star deluxe and 4. This is purely to capitalize on the current situation. And then, of course, we'll have a big portfolio where we are streaming from 3-star market and going up to the 5-star. Any questions, Mauro?
Thank you, Akshay. I think we do have a bit of a connection problem with you, as people can clearly see that you are trying to listen me. So I think we'll move to Fenadi later on, and we'll see if we can have you connected later with a proper connection, and we can start to take it bit more interactions with you. So I will move it. I will move it to Fenedy. If you are Fenedy, are you connected? Actually, Pascal is still there.
Hello, can you hear me?
Hi, the voice is clear.
Yes,
Welcome back.
great. Thank you so much. So I'm just the video part to ensure that we have enough connectivity, but thank you for bearing with me. And I'm going to go for the next portion of my presentation. So I would need Nung's help to put in my slide on vast majority of markets on occupancy.
Okay, I'll get back there. 1 second.
Thank you.
We're looking into this.
One more slide, please.
Okay. Are you able to control the slide?
I will skip the controlling part. I will leave that to you guys. But
okay.
Thank you for your help. All right. So sorry everyone for being cut off earlier. But this was the part where I was talking about what's the occupancy in various majority markets. So what you're seeing here is our data up to May, 2nd of May. And it's based on the actual data. We again try to bucket the occupancy level for the Americas, Asia Pacific, Europe, and the Middle East. So I will focus mainly on Asia Pacific. Like I mentioned earlier, there are a lot of closures, and what we have seen is in Asia is that occupancy is around 20%. This is Asia alone. Now, there are two main markets that has better performance as compared to the rest of the neighbors in Asia. So that is Singapore with almost 60% occupancy level. So that is mainly driven by the government's initiative to work with the hotel industry and also help alleviate the problem having quarantine hotels. Now, the Philippines is another market, like I mentioned earlier. It's because of the business processing output industry or the call centers. Because when there was the lockdown, the business has to continue, and the government has allowed accommodation for those employees in the BPO. So it was considered as an essential industry. So only two markets that we have seen for Southeast Asia that has better performance against the rest. But generally, as you can see, a lot of down performance. So in general, vast majority markets, like I mentioned, is about 10 to 30% occupancy only up to 2nd of May. Right now, so since we are in June, so we need to also look into the Vietnam market close in detail. So I will ask for the next slide, please. Next slide. Right. So one ASEAN market whereby the situation is well managed. So it's not very surprising. The government has well managed the situation. So the question is, there was an earlier presentation from Akshay on the domestic drivers, and also with Khan on the domestic flights. So how far will the domestic drivers push the industry for Vietnam? So this is a trend line from what we can see from April up to about 3rd week of May. The trend line basically shows us that the occupancy levels was earlier from the 10% occupancy, now slightly moved up, some pushback about 20%. And we are also slightly seeing some performance there. So obviously by May, you have a system reboot. The opening of the tourist locations, hotels are open, more domestic flights. And of course, in the recent news, there would be potential target of international flights. And the question is also, how will the e-visas of the government in July, how will this push more demand into the market? Next slide, please, where I will show you the occupancy performance for key markets in Vietnam. Next slide, please. Okay, let me try to move this. Okay. All right. So as you can see here, in general, the total market for Vietnam is about 10 to 20% occupancy. But if we would look closely in Ho Chi Minh, so what I have here is a very small difference between April and May, 13 and 14% occupancy. Now, Hanoi is slightly better for the last 2 months, April and May, compared to Ho Chi Minh. So they're about 10% better in terms of occupancy. Now, what is interesting is after the easing of when the lockdowns or when the market has eased, we have seen some sprouts of bookings and bookings for Da Nang and also Phu Quoc, right? So for Da Nang, interestingly, we have seen already movements on the weekend. So that is good. Still, it's not really, it's still a single-digit occupancy during the weekdays, but on the weekends, Fridays and Saturdays especially, occupancy has moved slightly a bit from 17 to 21%, especially this weekend. So that is a good sign. Some numbers, better performing numbers for Da Nang. And as for Phu Quoc, now that is interesting also, because the last 2 Saturdays of May, we have seen the occupancy jump from 3 to 5% during the weekdays to almost 35% compared to the April level. So obviously, some domestic movements are already fueling some the markets, especially for those sunny destinations. However, of course, when we look closely, this is still a very short data to be able to say, you know, how is Vietnam going to move forward, and you know, is the demand enough, or with the domestic demand enough? So we have another platform that we are introducing in Asia, well, globally actually, which is the Forward Star. So what we are trying to find out is the business on the books. So aside from some historical numbers, we are now already exploring opportunities for forward-looking data. So this will help the hotels to plan better and basically maneuver the ups and downs of the market. Once everyone is open, how is it going to be when international arrivals is back? How is the booking? How is the pickup? Is it going to be a quick pickup or a slow pickup in terms of demand for the Vietnam market? So next slide, please. So I'll give you a recap of the slide so far. So what we have seen, even if I will also touch on the presentations on airlines and also from Fusion, for example, we have seen so far some domestic travelers pushing some numbers in the market. Of course, local, it's very accessible. Leisure markets like Phu Quoc and Da Nang has already shown some very good heartbeat, but still faint, but I would say at least some activity there. Weekend obviously is quite some movements, but nothing notable. Maybe I would also touch on, based on accessibility, is for those markets or cities, like let's say the south of Vietnam, there may be some opportunities there because, you know, it's just a few hours drive. So that will probably push more demand into some key sub-markets of Vietnam. And of course, to help you or with the recovery of the market, there are available data there. Please use them. And if you would need help from STR, all you need to do is just reach out to us. But something to look at is not just historical data, but also looking at the forward-looking data. That's all for me. Thanks, Mauro.
Thank you very much, Helen. It was very clear. Unfortunately, this break one part to the other. I hope that people will be able to still remember your flow, but we will also send out this video after the webinar, so everybody will be able somehow to go back and take note to all the data that were somehow lost. So thank you very much, Kennedy. I think we are now moving to the second part of the The webinar will start to interview some of our industry experts. We'll have a different company to speak to, and still a lot of that actually will come out from this. I will ask everybody to hold 1 second while we will connect with a new Ranger people. Stay there, give me 5 seconds, don't log out. I'll see you. Now we're going to start the second part of the webinar. We're going to do few quick, what we call elevator interview with some of our industry experts. So we'll cover up a bit into the local markets with TMG. We'll look into the recovery of some of the city and resort hotel with ING, and then we'll talk about restaurants and F&B business. My first guest today is Mr. Thien Chanh, CEO of TMG and Chairman of the Vietnam Tourism Advisory Board. Mr. Thien, are you connected? It should come in a minute. Yes. And the mic. Okay. Excellent. Mr. Thien, how are you? Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, Marco. I'm doing good. Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you very much. So your company owns one of the largest Vietnamese platforms for travelers, but also own a pretty well-known hotel chain which cover international destination and local destination. So we really like to know from you more about the Vietnamese travelers, if they are coming back, if they are as strong as ever, and what will be the future of the Vietnamese travelers.
Thank you, Marco. It's a very good question, and I think it's the kind of question we're asking ourselves a lot. But before I start, let me give a couple of minutes to sort of introduce ourselves. At TMG, as you mentioned, we've been in Vietnam for 26 years. It's one of the largest private owned travel and hotel group based in Vietnam. We operating in the 4-pillar hospitality, OTA, airlines, and travel. We served about 1 million guests last year. Although would be about 250,000 in the hotels, but 3,000 domestic guests is about 600,000 international guests. The group have over 2,000 people, and we operate 12 hotels, cruise ships in the river. We operate 4 aircraft and trains, and we sell our services and product globally through our own offices in London, Sydney, Lisbon, and Moscow. Our most famous brand in the hotel would be the Victoria. I've been around here for over 20 years. Our mid-scale, comfortable, affordable hotel brand aims are mostly city hotel, and we just make a joint venture with TUI to open TUI Blue in Vietnam. This is a fully inclusive resort. Our travel business has been around for 26 years, and we have a number of brands, including Vivu Tourist, Peak Adventure, and a number of other cruises brands. Our online brand, as you mentioned, is the largest Vietnamese online travel agency. It's been around for 10 years, and our airlines is higher aviation, specializing in charter flight, survey flight, and scenic flight. So, as you already know, this year is one of the toughest years we have seen in the history of the company. We expect for this year that the international business could drop at most at about 70 to 78%, depending when the people are comfortable traveling again. We saw that for the first 2 months of the year, TMG was still doing above the budget, and actually above last year, almost 30%. But then for March and April, our international and domestic business have been gone down to zero. So in April, we have zero business, although most of our hotels were still opening. But the good news is that we have seen Vietnam have eased and lockdown from the 23rd of April. And we see that a lot of people are start looking at traveling again. From our observation, we see that people will start looking and searching for travel almost about at the end of April, I think around April 23rd, and that coming very, very quickly. And think about in May, we see that almost the expectations or the search for travel have reached the same level as January. And TMC, we are lucky we have been able to open, and because we have the online travel agency, which is #1 in Vietnam, we have a good sense of the market. So we managed to open a lot of our hotels earlier than the market. Many of our hotels will open as early as April 23rd. So far until today, we got about 5 weeks of operation. And I would like to share with you some of what our observation and insight about the domestic travelers that come into our hotels. Ultimately, until today, Vietnam border was still closed, so we have no international inbound business. All of the business we have are domestic and expatriate who are living in Vietnam. So what we observed were trends #1 was that a lot of people started traveling, but they still hesitant to take a longer trip. So they tend to be traveling nearer to their hometown. So people from Hanoi would probably drive to Mai Châu or drive to some of the beaches near to Hanoi, drive to Ha Long Bay over the weekend, or maybe they go to these Sapa, and likewise people in Saigon will probably go to Ho Tram or go to Phan Thiết, or drive to the Mekong Delta. They prefer to still, a lot of people prefer drive and fly for the first 3 weeks. They prefer to travel with the smaller groups. So instead, a typical Vietnamese would often travel with the big groups. A lot of people traveling right now, they travel with their own family or a small group of friends. I'm talking about 4 or 5 people, 6 people, instead of traditionally traveling in a big group of 30, 40 people. And what people really want, and it's not surprising, after the lockdown, they're looking for beach and they're looking for nature destinations. So we saw a lot of demand right after the lockdown, around April 30th and May 1st. Some of our beach hotels are fully. Some of our hotels in the special rural or nature area were full on those few days. Even the lockdown was at ease off just about a week. Another interesting thing we found, that in the past, our distribution kind of equally distributed among direct and through our travel partners. So almost 50-50, probably a bit more on direct. But almost all of our business for the last 5 weeks are direct. So people actually trust a brand, know a property, they book direct with the hotels. The second thing we see in the booking pattern as well, where people prefer to use the digital resources directly from the hotels or from a partner they trust, a local partner most of the time. So most of our bookings are coming from either from direct through our website or through our app, or actually through our member OTA, iVivo, also our other partner like Agoda and Booking.com. Almost 95% of the business are coming from the sources, and the rest is coming from a few partners. And interesting also, we teasing out what kind of discounts and what kind of special we can actually work. And we see that if we're doing about around 25% discount, the people tend to book almost to the maximum. So meaning that even if we lower the price below 25%, the demand is not going to shoot off, although we see the demand for that. So people were kind of cautious as well that if the price was too low. So recommendation to a lot of hoteliers, I think, is to keep that within about 10 to 25% discount on the previous pricings strategy, and then maybe giving add-on values for people as well. And obviously, it's important that people always ask: is the region safe? Is the hotel was safe? What kind of method we are using to make sure that we are safe in the stay? So safety was obviously very important. And last, in terms of booking, people actually book in the last minute. We often see booking is just about a day or two before they travel, and a lot of bookings come on the day they travel. So people take a car with their family and they travel to one destination, say traveling to Maizhou. They probably call up a hotel or book online with our website as they travel. So these are the kind of insight and the observation we've seen in the Vietnamese domestic market and over the last 5 weeks. Obviously, it's a very short and time to observe and not a huge data, but I think it's a quite interesting trend that we see there. Other thing we also seeing as well is we're seeing a lot of expats, the people who live in Vietnam, are coming back and feel more confident to travel. They travel more over the last 2 weeks. And I saw a lot of them in our hotel in Hoi An, in Phan Thiết, in Ha Long Bay. And we're seeing a lot of them are planning their summer holidays in Vietnam this year, versus traveling back home. And Marco, you probably see that for yourself as well. And another big market we're seeing as well, the last year there were almost about 16 million Vietnamese who were traveling overseas. So this summer, I think probably this year, they were not traveling anywhere. So a lot of these people were looking at the option to travel within Vietnam and probably travel when the children are taking the summer holidays from July. And some of the research show that probably about 72% of them are planning to travel within Vietnam as well, and they're making the planning right now. So that is very, very good trends because, as you can see, the entire market in Vietnam last year, we got about 85 million. We have 85 million Vietnamese traveling within Vietnam. We had 18.5 million inbound tourists, and we got about 16 million Vietnamese traveling outbound. So for this year, we won't have this 18 million inbound, and I say probably we will be seeing a drop between about 70 to 78% in inbound, but then we have the pent-up demand, so we would otherwise traveling overseas would probably looking at a better experience. And this is the people who have the experience of traveling, experience of high-end services, and have the deep enough pocket to look at to spend. And it would be very interesting to observe this behavior in the coming 2 months. So I think mentioned TMG on one of the largest online travel companies in Vietnam, and we would happy to share with you what the data we've seen for the first 5 months of 2020. So for the whole 5 months compared to 2019, Avivu saw about 4.6% decrease in traffic. So yes, the COVID-19 and the lockdown have an impact on people interest to travel overall, and that's true. And that on the back to say that for the last 5 years, every year Avivu traffic has been growing at about almost 100% every year, year on year. So we're seeing the first time ever in the last 5 years, a small decrease of 4.6%. The traffic declined very sharply around the lockdown period in April, was almost down by 80%. But immediately after the lockdown, meaning the end of April, we see the traffic picking up. And coming to the end of May, we have seen the traffic almost picking up at the same level at May 2019. In terms of bookings, ultimately booking were down compared to last year. But the interesting thing is we have seen from the 27th of April to the 27th of May, we saw bookings increase again compared to the same period last year. But then we saw a revenue down by about 15%, meaning that because a lot of hotels, a lot of tourism suppliers are giving discount, even we see more bookings, the value of the bookings have gone down by 15%. We're seeing that it's a good time, value for money to travel. And that pattern we were seeing it well, and I will start seeing for the last few days that the booking were double compared to last year. So it came back very, very strong, and a lot of the booking were traveling within the months of July and August. So a good sign for the industry overall. And I view have a big enough data to show the trends together with our other research from Tourism Advisory Report, together with Google and Express. So that is about our online data. I'm happy to share with you as well some of our hotel performance in the month of May. As I say, we have 16 hotels, and we opened 12 hotels and resorts in the month of May. Our two biggest brands, the Victoria Hotels, with 7 hotels, and we have seen a big jump from April. Ultimately, we see that hotel on the beaches are doing better than hotel in the city. Some of the hotel in the remote area, like in Mui Sam in the Mekong Delta, and the hotel like a Natural Lodge near to Hanoi in the nature, in the rural area, are doing very, very well. The Victoria and Mui Sam saw about 43% occupancy. Victoria Frontier Hotel already saw a 30% occupancy in the month of May. So the Victoria brand overall, which has about 10% occupancy, but specifically two of the hotels, one on the beach, one in the rural area, were doing quite well in May. For the M brand, mostly the hotels in the city and tourist area, we see a good performance of the M Saigon, partly because we do have people who come and stay longer. And also we see very good performance at Natural Lodge, where we saw a 28% occupancy in May, because these people driving from Hanoi at the mentioned way, and people want to stay in the rural and nice area. So moving forward, what would be the forecast? I think it's hard to forecast at this point in time. I think we look at number of research and people around the world. I think 50% of them probably not answering what when they likely to travel. But we saw about in APAC, at least in APAC region, 50% of the people say they will travel over the next 3 to 6 months. Many of them in some country are willing to travel already now. It is safe to travel. So the more without the vaccine, without the proper treatments, we would hard to predict what the future look like. So in the coming weeks, we have to observe and talk a lot with our customers. And already we see that they have changed a lot as well. The people who are traveling right now are a lot more humble, a lot more pragmatic, and they genuinely want to travel. And a lot of our own businesses, and I recommend the same thing for our friends and partners in the industry, to continue operating with great flexibility and innovation, because we have to change and adapt to the new environment. And while no one knows when demand will really come back full, I know for sure that it will come back, because travel is very liberating and will bring the sense of freedom, and that's what people needed right now. So that is very much to conclude my answer to the question. Is that fine with you, Marco?
Thank you very much, Thien. I think this was an elevator pitch. We will probably be into Burj Khalifa. It's good. It was very good. Thank you very much. You touched a lot of points. Something has been discussed with STR and oil before. Something will be discussed later. Just really one single question to you, very briefly, about the travel bubble. What is your best guess into Vietnam opening to other countries? Which one would be some of the first country and when?
Actually interesting, because I'm going to have a meeting today talking about that. I believe that Vietnam would be open up a number of bubbles with countries, probably starting with Asia Pacific. I believe that countries like New Zealand and Australia, Taiwan, maybe South Korea and China will be the country we're probably looking at opening first. The actual stages are opening, and when we start having a pilot opening, would still a question mark, because it's very much depending on the other country. We are lucky to live in Vietnam, where we have more than 47 days without any case in the community. So we are in a position to discuss with the country. As the chairman of the advisory board, I would advise the government to open safely and cautiously. Taking care of our community health is very, very important. However, if we are finding the country that meeting the requirement, we would strongly recommend the country to open. And when it open, I think we would probably be able to serve a lot of pent-up demand. Again, I really hope we can do that with Australia, maybe around September, October, maybe South Korea and other countries as well, but all subject to government and taking health as the most important measure.
Please, if you have a meeting today, suggest Italy before December. We really like to see back my family for Christmas. Thank you very much, Thien. Thank you for joining us. It was great. And have a good day and have a good meeting with the authority today discussing on the future of Vietnam hospitality. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Marco, and thank you for inviting me. Thanks, Savills.
So the second, we move into the second part. We'll move to the second presenter today. We'll have a connection with Brian Chang, Director of Development for Southeast Asia and Korea from InterContinental Hotel Group. Brian, are you there?
Hi, Mauro. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. I know you are home, still locked. Brian is connecting from Singapore. How is life over in Singapore?
We're very envious about you guys in Vietnam. We are entering month number 3 of an effective partial lockdown. So we are very envious of listening to you guys being able to go to restaurants and live your daily life.
Yes, it's been a blessing for us. But yeah, we're looking forward to see you guys, you Singaporean guys coming back here. The hotel are still a bit empty. They need a bit more business people. The restaurant fine. Some of things are fine, but we need some business back from over there. Okay, so thank you very much. You somehow will represent the whole InterContinental Hotel Group. We know you are not based here, but I'm sure you had a good chat with the GM here around. Some of property are open, some they will open soon. Can you please take us through the whole situation of ING in Vietnam, a bit into the performance, if you like, and really what will be the strategy of the GM in the upcoming weeks and months?
Sure. Thanks, Mauro. So maybe for those who don't know us, a bit about IHG. So we are InterContinental Hotels Group, one of the leading hotel companies in the world. We've had a strong presence in Vietnam for almost 2 decades now, with brands sort of ranging from InterContinental, Six Senses, Crowne Plaza, and Holiday Inn. To answer your question, out of the 13 open IHG hotels, effectively all but one are currently open. So there was plus or minus about 4 or 5 of them that closed for a certain period of time. But these have generally all reopened, and a lot of that is linked into gearing up for the Vietnamese summer. So how do we sort of look at the Vietnam market? We sort of look at it in a couple of ways. In a tale of 2 cities, if you will, right? So there's sort of the leisure market over here and sort of the city market. And in the leisure market, it's very interesting because they were the first to get hit, because it's optional travel. So you have the option not to travel, and during periods of safety concerns, a lot of people canceled their trips. In contrast, the city hotels were the last to take a hit. Because a lot of the corporate travel was required for business and whatnot, so they hung on for a little while longer. Now it's very interesting because in the recovery, it's the reverse. So the leisure destinations, like the beach destinations, are the first to recover, driven primarily by domestic demand. And then on the city side, they're actually the last to recover because they rely on a very high percentage of international travel. So I guess you asked me sort of, is there a recovery happening at the moment, right? Where is it coming from? So I think, as Mr. Thien said, we are still a long way away from where the industry was. I think globally, the hotel industry has reported an 80% year-on-year decrease in the month of April. So that's the reality of the situation where we are. But there are snippets of good news coming out. And first, a lot of that is coming from the leisure beachfront destinations. So where is this happening? It's very interesting because it's especially strong on the weekends. So you're seeing about anywhere from 80 to 100% occupancy in a lot of the locations that are within driving distance of population centers. So that's near to Hanoi, near to Ho Chi Minh. But on the weekdays, they're doing about single-digit occupancy. And a lot of their traditional demand on the weekdays, like MICE meetings and all that with bigger groups, these are not happening because of safety concerns. So some examples, we are now in the Grand Ho Tram property in the Ho Tram Strip. That hotel, which is about a 2-hour driving distance from Ho Chi Minh, is doing roaring business on the weekends. While InterContinental Nha Trang has recently made a decision to reopen as one of the first international hotels. And that's also seeing a recovery, but slower than the Grand Ho Tram. Meanwhile, the further you go, where you have to fly like in Phu Quoc, people are still less keen to get on planes. So there is a slower recovery compared to some of the nearer destinations. Generally, I would say in these leisure destinations, you're seeing about anywhere from 20 to 40% occupancy month round. This is quite a similar experience to what we're seeing in places like Korea and China, which are seeing much of the recovery. So we do see a consistent trend across these domestic-driven destinations. And we're very happy to hear of the travel bubbles that Vietnam is trying to create with countries such as China and Korea. I think they make up more than 50% of the source market into Vietnam. So if these travel buckets can be established, I think that will help a lot of these leisure destinations significantly. And the not so good news, which is the city hotels. Generally, you'll find in Ho Chi Minh and Hanoi, these hotels are doing about single-digit occupancy throughout the market. And this is not only for international hotels, this is also for sort of local hotels, even at the mid-scale or below. So why is that? A large reason is they're very dependent on international travel. So in Hanoi, much of this is corporate or leisure. And a lot of the corporate is actually linked into industrial with some big players such as Samsung. So very much the hotels that have Samsung and which still have the Samsung guys in town are doing well, and those that don't are not doing as well. In Ho Chi Minh, it's much more white collar, sort of office demand, regional headquarters, as well as a tourist dispersal point from where people on fly into other domestic destinations. So I think with the borders closed, this is a very difficult situation for everyone. And much of the existing international travel is really international arrivals who are already in the country, going from city to city, or corporate travelers on the weekends going somewhere else. So until the borders reopen, we do see that it will be difficult for the city hotels. So how long is it going to take the city hotels to recover? It's really anyone's guess. A lot of this will be driven by government and the opening of borders, and subsequently whether or not people are comfortable to fly, because as you can see, driving is already taking precedence over flying. But we do see potentially in the next 1 year or so, potentially regional travel will kick up again, and Vietnam will be a big beneficiary. And beyond that, perhaps long-haul travel in the next 1 to 2 years. Now, how do we sustain the city hotels then currently when this is a difficult situation? So the reality is it's market-wide. There's limited ability for us to push the market beyond what it is. But what's been important for us is to stick to our motto of true hospitality and do what's right for guests with regards to cancellation policies and safety, for owners with regard to profits and revenue sources, and employees as well as the community. But what we can do in terms of demand is on the revenue front, it's very interesting. Just under 50% of our hotels in Vietnam are by design hybrid hotel and service apartment concepts. So a lot of that is linked into long-stay demand who have already been in the country. And as an example, Intercon Saigon residences, a lot of the guests that were that are there today are the same guests that were there before coronavirus. So that helps us with the occupancy situation. And we're also sort of able to steal market share within the limited demand that already exists. Part of that is introducing things like our IHG Clean Promise, which is about cleaning protocols. And we're seeing guest checkout of some other hotels where they don't see the same protocols in place and move over to our hotels. Having a balance of activities. So a lot of hotels have decided to cut costs drastically and close restaurants and whatnot. We have decided that a lot of these guests are staying longer than expected in Vietnam. And it's important to keep activities, F&B options open, and that you can do it creatively by cycling through. And also with regard to domestic demand, we really need to tap our local accounts, which we've got to know quite well, operating in Vietnam for almost 2 decades, as well as using digital marketing to reach out to the domestic leisure traveler, especially on the weekend. So we're doing things like honeymoon packages, family packages, pizza cooking classes for kids, movie nights with popcorn in Hanoi, and that's attracting people from the surrounding provinces like Haiphong or Ha Long. And on the cost front, of course, we have to be creative. So figure out how do we cut costs in the most creative and humane way possible, doing what's best for staff, while also giving them the opportunity to upskill and do multifunctional roles while they're there. So what's the longer term implication for Vietnam? I think we all believe that travel will return. There is, a romance of travel and everyone's looking forward to that. And I think Vietnam is the best country to enjoy that growth because a lot of the FDI is going to shift to Vietnam due to a lot of the geopolitical situation. And we see that the government will be pushing for city growth as well as emerging market leisure locations such as Dalat or Ho Tram, where people may be rediscovering these domestic destinations. So we're pretty busy at the moment, have a lot of conversations going on, and we're very excited to see Vietnam succeed in becoming one of the premier destinations here in Asia.
Thank you, Brian. Thank you very much. And I like the fact that you were asking, so when doing my job, asking yourself a question, keep going. Next time, I don't even need to be here. Thank you for that. It's good because actually it was the right question to ask. So thanks for that. Just to clarify on your Ho Tram grant, when will you guys will flag it and which brands will be put there?
So we're discussing with the owners anytime between the end of 2020 and early 2021 to flag it as an InterContinental. So it's already an IHG hotel and bookable via ihg.com. But it is going through the refurbishment process.
We also saw that about half of the project was supposed to be open this year. We'll move it to next year. It's not a big delay, but somehow the construction and the pre-opening has been slightly affected. Do you have any property that are supposed to be open this year and somehow they will be the maybe end of the year or 2021?
Yeah, the good news is we haven't really had any properties like that. So I think for us, we're still very active on a lot of our conversations and people are excited. And I think a lot of the developers can currently see the move towards recovery in Vietnam. So I think a lot of them are excited to open. So most of ours are sort of next year and beyond.
Thank you very much. Brian, I need to let you go because we passed the limit time. It was very good, lot of information to digest for us. Very nice picture on your back. So we have 3 presenters around. So thank you again for joining us. All the best over in Singapore. Looking forward to see you back here in Vietnam soon. Thank you.
Thank you, Mauro.
We will move now to our third speaker for the direct interview. Mr. Minh Chu, founder and president of the Restaurant Association of Vietnam. We had a bit of a difficulty connection with me in the last few minutes. So Minh, give us a sign that you are connected with us. And the sign will be open in the video. we could start. Or the audio as well. We invited Minh because somehow we've been talking about hotel a lot, and we also like to have a bit into the restaurant part. Hi Minh, how are you?
I'm fine. Hi, Mauro.
Good boy, good everything. Fine, thank you, and thanks to my team next to me, which you don't see, to fix all the problems. So we know that you guys have been doing a study in the last few weeks, a survey with with resorts, with restaurant property, to really get their opinion over this crisis, to get their number, to see what the future could be. What we would like you to do today in this fraction of 10 minutes left is to really take us through what is the mood of restaurant owners and business and what came out of your study.
Yeah, thanks, Mauro. Firstly,
sorry, maybe if you also want to give us 1 minute introduction about the Restaurant Association of Vietnam, just to understand what you guys are up to and what contribution you have.
Yeah, thank Mauro. Restaurant Association of Vietnam would like to develop an ecosystem for supporting restaurant owner, restaurant business in Vietnam in new era of development of food and beverage in Vietnam this point of time. I think this now is the right time to promote food and beverage in Vietnam. As a unit point of sale for Vietnam tourism, for example. Representative for Restaurant Association Vietnam, I would like to thank you, Mauro and Savi, to invite us to try this e-forum with other experts. Just 2-3 months ago, we conducted a survey for more than 100 restaurant owner and investor in restaurant sector. We focus on the situation, the challenge, and how the restaurant owner have to facing and how they react with the situation. During the February, March, and April, through online survey and direct interview. Here is a closer look at our respondent. Firstly, most of outlets located in Ho Chi Minh and Hanoi, the biggest city in Vietnam, that account for over 91%, and with more than 45% in the full service restaurant segment. And 27 in coffee and beverage segment. This survey indicates that in March, nearly 60% of store dropped from 30 to 60 of revenue, and more affected by COVID. 19 in April, and nearly 92% of store growth from 50% of revenue, and of which 42% of store completely closed with no revenue. It's no secret that there are three priority react from restaurant owner: reduce personnel, online delivering, and or they have to close completely. And we found the message during this duration time that save as much money as possible for unexpected expense, for sure. The last one, the reports also point out that almost 27% of restaurants maintain 15 to 30 of revenue thanks to online delivery. And we saw some brands like GrabFood, Deliver Now, and Basemin as popular platform are using. These indicators are nothing special because we all know that restaurant sector is one of the industries most affected by COVID-19. However, the most interesting figure from the report is more than 51% of restaurant expectation that business will return to normal as before COVID-19 will be in July. Really surprised, yeah. It's a very positive information, and we believe that this is very positive motivation, a positive impact to have the restaurant sector business return to normal very soon. Yeah, that's some key factor that I want to share today. Yeah.
Thank you, Min. Do you think the business in May is coming back to your members?
For sure, we have the same expectation with restaurant owner here from the survey, and we have the same thinking with them about the positive expectation. Seen another important factor that strengthen our belief that in the turn of food and beverage sector in investment chain, especially the international investment in Vietnam in food and beverage. Thus, we as a Restaurant Association of Vietnam have promoted since 2019 last year the investment to investor from Singapore, Taiwan, Japan, Korea, and most of them show that Vietnam market is the priority market for them to invest for coming year, and they will be a significant motivation to strengthen our belief the food and beverage sector will recover strongly very soon. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Min. We love your optimism. I'm a big lover of food, being Italian, but also living abroad for a while. And I was one of the big user of the delivery during the quarantine, but still now. So I'm a supporter of F&B from my side. Thank you very much for joining us. What I would like to tell people is that all your statistic and your number will then be distributed to everybody when we start to release all these videos. So everybody that is joining us today will get all the data that being discussed through this webinar. Thank you, Min, very much, and all the best for your startup restaurant association. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Mauro. Bye.
We'd like to move into the third part of the discussion and enter into really a deep analysis into what the future will be of the hospitality for Vietnam. We have a set of developer, hotel operator, consultants, so a bit of mix of a different point of view, different expertise. Give me 5 seconds, we'll try to connect everybody and we'll come back to you. Excellent. We managed to connect everybody. Still, technology is challenging for in every situation, but we are slowly getting through. We will enter into the panel discussion, which is the last part of the webinar. Hopefully, we'll have a lot of opinion and we'll share a lot of ideas and we'll see into the future of the market. I'd like to present all our panel speakers. We have Ms. Liu Yanping, Regional General Manager of Ascott International, Ms. Jean-Paul Riby, Chief Executive Officer of Savills Hospitality Group, Mr. Hannes Romanch, Deputy General Director of Eurowindow Holding. It's actually one of our clients. I should get the name right at the first time. And Mr. Kenneth Agison, Vice Chairman, Vietnam Tourism Advisory Board, founder and senior board advisor of Grand Thornton, Vietnam. We'll connect with all of them at the right time. Actually, Jean-Paul is here next to us. Later on, we'll pass around the camera. You'll be able to see him. I would like to start with Ms. Yin. If Yin, you're connected, please open the video. Let's see. She should be. Yes. We see a connection coming. Thien, how are you? Last time we talked, you were in quarantine somewhere in Kuala Lumpur, if I don't forget. It seems now you're much better than before. Please inform us a little bit.
Yes, I'm back. I'm back to Ascott. Now I'm off from the quarantine. Xin chào everyone, and I miss Vietnam. I miss Ascott in Vietnam. So I really love and looking forward to go back as soon as possible when the international border is open. So anyway, Vietnam has a lot of good news in the last two weeks. So I'm excited that I can return home soon. Then we can continue and start the engine together with my team and build up the business for the Ascott in Vietnam. So I just want to briefly talk about Ascott in Vietnam.
Yes,
first,
into this reopening period. Your microphone is off. You need to open the microphone. It's off again.
Yes. Okay, thank you so much for having me today session. Let's talk about a little bit about Ascott. Ascott today, thanks to the very strong FDI of Vietnam, especially in 2019, Ascott has Vietnam has a very high record high of FDI, and it's also where Ascott's biggest large Southeast Asia portfolio is located. So we, as of now, we have close to 7,000 keys that we're operating in 9 cities across in Vietnam. So what I'm seeing after the pre and post COVID-19, we see the difference between the service residence business, where Ascott, the mainstream of business, and as well as the difference between with the hotels. And I'm very thankful, very fortunate that because of the business model and a very good support, thanks to very good support of our associates as well as our customers, and all our business in Vietnam remains open. Out of the 18 properties, only 1 properties that we have to shut down due to the city was being locked down. And 17 out of 18 properties all remain profitable, record positive GOP, still maintain a very high occupancy thanks to our strong support for our customers, as well as we can see that the difference between the hotels and a service residence business model, that service residence is much more resilient during the crisis period. However, our properties, Citadines per Hoi An, has opened its door on the 1st of June. Since we opened, we are back, and the property has recorded very high demand for the hotels, as also due to people all eager to spend the holidays outside of their home. So we see a lot of demands, and we have a surge of occupancy in both our Citadines in Hoi An as well in Nha Trang. So overall, I see that in terms of business development part, we also see a growing interest. We have from our developers and owners. They approach us, say, okay, we want you to manage our service residence, and they're looking into changing from the hotels to service residence business. We're seeing a lot of opportunities, but of course, Ascott not only just operating based on service residence model, we also have various other products. We also have entered into the hotel space, and so I seeing that hotel business is also a long-term, it will be a long-term plan for us, and hotels always still have a space in this market, especially for the domestic tourism, and when international travelers come back, people still like to stay in the hotels. So we still see that in long term, we still want to grow our hotels brand. And also, after this COVID-19, we also see a search for the demand from a change of the customers' behavior, that we're looking at there is a very good potential for us to grow our different brand, bring in a different brand called Life, LYF. So as of now, we don't have any Life brand in Vietnam, but we have been seeing a lot of strong interest from our developers and our owners. And this Life brand is our new core living concept that designed by millennials for the growing wave of millennials and millennial-minded travelers, such as technopreneurs and startups, as well as creatives for the music and media and fashion industries. So Life provides this kind of a global jet setter and trendsetter with the opportunity to live your freedom and the dynamic working environment. And we see, because after the post-COVID-19, people looking for not only just looking for expecting high standard of cleanliness and hygiene, but they're also looking for brands that is reliable. So those international reliable brands like Ascott can provide the peace of mind and the comfort that they are looking for. So in light of that, we also seeing that Life, we have a lot of opportunities for us to bring in these new brands to Vietnam, as well as due to this change of the customer perspective, and we also have launched Ascott globally, has launched a program called Ascott Care campaign, and that's to tell our customers that Ascott is a place that is safe and clean, and as a way for people to feel comfort. Yeah. So that's what we are seeing that.
Thank you, Ian. Just quickly Yes, still on. Yes, thank you. So you'll be discussing about long-term, short-term. Can you please take us through a bit on the Somerset and the Citadine? What kind of mix usually of long-term, short-term guests do you have? And which one are actually doing much better than other in period like this, in terms of just brand and mix?
Okay. So we're looking in two perspectives, right? One's long-term, right? For long-term perspective, of course, our service residence brand, which be much more resilient with the home, and especially this with Vietnam has a very strong FDI, that we see the demand for the long-term accommodation for extended stay. We will always continue to be there. So this will fuel the demand for our SR, and they will give a much more potential growth potential for to grow our brand. So under the service residence brand, we at the moment everybody, I think most of the market, our customers know our Somerset brand, which is known for the extended stay, known for the family, and however, we also have other brands like Ascott, which is our premier brand that was supposed to bring in Ascott, slated to open in 2022 or 2023. We will have first Ascott Saigon in Ho Chi Minh City. We also have other brand which is called Citadine's brand. Citadine's has a business model that is very dynamic. We have an SR and also hotels component which cater for both extended stay as well as short stay. So where we're seeing that, where we have Citadines in Saigon, Citadines in Hoi An, Citadines in Nha Trang, as well as we have a new upcoming Citadines in Ha Long, and they cater for both long stay and short stay, and as well as the Binh Duong. So for those properties in Saigon, and we have a long stay, we still see a very resilient. We don't need to close down, and it still have positive GOP. That is actually a testament that people looking for when we stay at extended stay, and they like to choose our brand. So because Citadines has much more dynamic kind of layout, flexible layout, and also flexible system, so they can cater whether for short stay or long stay. So in a way that we are seeing that service residence business model will continue to feel to help will be our mainstream of our brand to go in Vietnam under Ascott. But as I also explained, that in terms of a long-term brand prospect, we also want to grow our hotels, which we're seeing that hotels will always have a space in Vietnam. And with the rising of middle income, middle class segment, as well as rising incomes for the domestic travelers, so we see that will be give us much more strong growth potential for to build our hotels brand. So we have a few new management contract that we have signed up, that we are going to bring in our Virtu hotel brands and other yellow hotel brand, which is yellow, as well as Preference, and which is our a label of boutique hotel. So we also excited to bring in this brand to in Vietnam for the next few years. So in overall, that whether long-term or short-term service residence and hotels space, we would like to cover both. I think with Ascott, for more than 35 years of experience and globally, we have the capability to grow about this.
Thank you, Ian. Thank you.
Yes.
I would like to move now from looking into city hotel and service apartment to Hannes from Eurowindow, looking into beach frontage resort. Hannes, are you there with us? Yes, it's connecting.
Mauro, yes, I'm here.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you very much for joining us. Our actually second video interview with you. We discussed with you more than 1 month ago when Movenpick was still open, was still receiving guests. Would love to know, after a month of reopening, Cam Ranh Airport start to bring more local businesses, how your guys are doing, how the property, the beachfront property, are doing over in Cam Ranh.
All right. So it's a little bit of a mixed bag. Yes, Vietnamese Airlines is back with the flights. We have seen this one. We see that people seem to be more local people seem to be interested again in traveling. But generally speaking, we saw that nationwide speaking, like 1st of May, reunification, it was a little bit underwhelming. It was not really what people expected was going to happen. So it seems that people are holding back, particularly when it's airplane travel involved. I think it's easier when you can go by car or with something that's closer in proximity to cities like Ho Chi Minh City. Like Vung Tau, for example, is doing pretty well. It's also depending how you structured your hotel. We are very lucky in a respect that we have got the main hotel and the villas. So we could basically close down one part, save a lot of cost, and keep the other part open. The villas are pretty much fully booked, so that works very well. But we can see a huge difference in demand. There's a lot of demand during the weekends. Middle of the week, beginning of the week, it's a little bit slow. And the people that are staying here typically just a couple of nights, so no long-term stays, no long-term holidays. Having said that, we do have people that stay with us for a very long time. Foreigners that just take the chance of living in a beautiful resort. But I would say 95% is really local people coming for traveling.
Thank you, I think great. Later on, we'll dig more a bit into this again. It seems that it's all about local and local. Yes, of course, everybody wants to go Cam Ranh over a good weekend, but having people during the week is a bit more problematic. Do you think you guys will open to MICE business to cover this weekday period? Do you have any interest from a company to start to reach out? Can it actually be legally done in terms of conferencing period like this?
I cannot tell you all of our secret strategies. No, of course, you need to open up your field, right? Your target groups. And since we're probably going to have for quite some time for foreign tourists to come, we need to completely change the business model. It's also in terms of pricing completely different. We've got this hotel stimulus package where government and local tour agencies, whatever, encourage people to lower the prices. I'm not sure I agree with that strategy, to be very honest. But it's a different story. But absolutely, you need to go into different target groups, and companies and MICE and meetings, incentives are definitely a good place to go, because summer holidays are coming up for Vietnamese companies that want to travel. They probably have a lot of things to make good for their staff that either had to work from home or had to work in very uncomfortable environments. And people want to go out and see something. Right? It's really, really good. Another thing that people completely forget is wedding business. There were literally no weddings in the last couple of months, and people want to wed. They need places to go, and so there's a lot of backlog in that respect, in that business, that you can actually tap into. So that seems to work quite well.
Thank you. So you're really grabbing the people that have been a lot of Vietnamese lady getting looking for
absolutely
get married again. Thank you very much, Anis. We will move a bit the camera, and my dear team here will help me, and we'll move it to Mr. Jean-Paul, which is here next to me, and more maybe we both. So thank you for joining me. There's a lot of rain today. Actually, it's good that it's just coming here last moment. Please tell us a bit more about Thien Group, the reopening, the hospitality, and how you guys are doing in this period.
Well, Mauro, thank you so much for having me here today and inviting me to the office. It was an experience to come here under heavy rain. How is Sun Hospitality doing? Sun Hospitality doing has picked up. We can say that. Officially, as everyone else in the hospitality sector, we were under certain measures from government. We were under certain pressure with the COVID-19, so most of our property were closed to the public, as most of the companies have done as well. Since the reopening of the government regulation, then we have now reopened our properties in Phu Quoc. We have reopened some properties in Da Nang, Sapa, and Ha Long. So basically what I would say is that we have reopened 85% of our properties already. What does that mean? It means that business is on. For some of them, since the long weekend of the end of April, for some others from the last weekend of May, and the last bunch will be open by the end of June. Yeah. So that will give the full spectrum of Sun Hospitality properties. How are we doing? To be honest, right now, I would say Phu Quoc is probably the better location because people feel safe because it's an island. So, although the fear factor remains, but yes, we have picked up business, and I have to say it's pretty good. Da Nang is moving very slowly. As we know, Da Nang is usually for the overseas, market with China, with Korea, with Taiwan, So at the moment, unfortunately, this is not happening. However, there is light at the end of the tunnel because if any of you follow me on LinkedIn, I have posted the latest article from the government, which is planning to reopen this market for the moment on the island of Phu Quoc, which I personally think is an excellent strategy because it will tell them how safe it is. And if anything needs to go wrong, they can actually lock the island very quickly. So it's a test, definitely, and it's at the same time a great, strategy to see if it works. And I guess if Foucault is successful, then they probably will reopen the entire country to the rest of this market. Elsewhere, unfortunately, as my colleague have said, there is very little weak business. It's mostly at the moment weekend business. So officially, we try to maximize, the income during the weekends, whether it's Foucault, Danone, or Sapa, or Hanoi, for a fact. Yeah, and we hope that things get better and better.
It's good. It's good. I think it's you made a lot of very good point. It's a weekend business, but still we are going into the summer, so that will help that period. And then hopefully, when the summer ends, we'll be able really to have to open to international business, and we should get it through these periods. The Foucault news is actually not news; it's the discussion. There's also other destinations that are doing the same. Thailand is considering also some of the islands. Of course, Bali has always been trying to get business. So it's actually a strategy that some of the government are considering. It would be great for business, for people that actually have a business in Foucault. You guys have one of the top property in Vietnam, and you always hit that very, very high niche market. Still talking about the local market, I would like then maybe to invite Ken, which should be now connected with us. Ken, if you are with us, please open the video.
Yep. Okay, I think I'm on.
Thank you. Thank you very much for joining us. We know you're very busy. We see you in a webinar every week. So we want you all in our webinar. We don't want to miss your latest news. Just give us a brief into what you think about this reopening period. But I would like also to know from you, how reliable is the local market for the hotel to survive on that? Can we just rely on the local market for the time being and for the next months to come?
Okay, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be working with you. Domestic, of course, it's important in terms of actual numbers. So last year we had 85 million domestic travelers. However, it's not that important in terms of the revenue that is generated from domestic relative to international. So we had 18 million international visitors last year who actually contributed more to the total revenue than the domestic market. So it's a difficult one. I personally, I don't think that the market can survive just on domestic, particularly the higher end 3, 4, 5-star branded properties. They need international to really survive in the medium to longer term. But opening up and getting people on the move and getting cash flow into a lot of the properties is obviously very, very important and critical to a lot of the smaller hotels and the private hotels. So we've seen a lot of the mini hotels, or maybe 2-star properties, closing, and probably quite a few of them will never reopen under the same ownership or management. So I think domestically, the hotels need to focus. Yeah, there is that big company trip market, annual trips for employees, but then obviously a lot of companies are battening down the hatches financially because we don't know how long the disruption to business is going to last. So people are very cash flow conscious. I think we're going to see a lot of extended payment periods in the market where companies are taking maybe 90 days to pay rather than 30 days to pay. And I agree with what's been said on rates. I don't see any significant advantage in dropping rates because we all know the problems of pushing rates up after we've done that. And we had we've got classic examples in Ho Chi Minh City going back to '98 and the Asian financial crisis, and New World dropping rates to $40 a night. And I think they've always suffered because of that in terms of the rates they're being able to achieve. So I think it's, yeah, and what we've seen, as has been mentioned, but to reinforce it over the holiday and post-holiday period, is that there is a reluctance, I think, on the part of a lot of Vietnamese still to get to an airport and get on a plane. They're more comfortable riding their bikes or getting cars to go to places closer to home. But if you look at Ho Chi Minh as an example, that's doing really, really well at weekends, very high occupancies, very low during the week, and I think that's tracking pretty well what China's seen. If you listen to HBS, that's what they've seen in their holiday destinations, and starting to see people coming back to the major city hotels. So we're starting to see more business travel, domestic business travel. The airlines are all operating at their full schedules now. So we expect to see more travelers, but that's not going to help the 4-5-star hotel properties in the major cities. So yeah, I mean, it's a start, and it's I guess it helps us learn from the experience, but we do need to find a way to get the international market back in.
Thank you, Ken. Just to follow up on that, we discussed briefly with Hannes on pricing. There is going to be a bit more a pressure for resort into the pricing. Now, Vietnamese has been a very good outbound tourism in the last few years. So they actually went out of Vietnam, experienced resorts. So they're much more educated, if you like, in terms of resorts and hotel than were a few years back. So now they can choose. They know what is good, what is not. Do you think that resort, generally the 5-star, the 4-star, the good one, by playing the right price strategy, will be able to capture a mass Vietnamese market? So do you see Vietnamese going to a 5-star hotel that before was, I would say, a bit more challenging for them to address, or they simply not interested?
I think it depends. Of course, we've got the summer school holidays. They've been on holiday since January, but there's the official school holidays coming up for the summer. So I think family travel is going to be a big thing, and all those people that were traveling overseas to places like Singapore and Thailand, Malaysia, Indonesia, they're going to be going local. So I think there is an opportunity there. Vietnamese, as we know, all love a bargain. If they think they're getting a discount or they're getting something for free, they'll jump at it. So, and I've noticed that a lot of the hotels have been kind of offering add-ons rather than actually dropping or publishing reduced rates, which I think is good. So I think it's creative packaging and marketing and working with the airlines, because the airlines are already heavily discounted. They're always discounting their fares. So discounting their fares is nothing new to them. So I think, working on a package where they give the bigger discounts and the hotels are able to be creative in how they sell.
Thank you, Ken. Before the ING, Brian was speaking about all this creativity that the resort and hotel are coming to give this promotion back together. Maybe I'll move it here back to Jean Paul next to me here. Are you guys seeing that promotion or any kind of package will help the business and your property in Phuket, for example? Do you think that there will be a great incentive for Vietnamese travelers to come and experience today what they probably were not able or interested to experience before at international price, if you like?
Indeed. I think what the Vietnamese traveler are going to be looking for is the experience before anything else. Yes, indeed, they are attracted by the price, they are attracted by the discount. But what we have seen and what we continue to see is a lot of Vietnamese travelers who are staying in 5-star and 4 stars are savvy travelers. And therefore, they are looking for an experience above anything else. Meaning, in the package we offer, there has to be something unique. You know, it cannot just turn around a discount or a combo or something else. It needs to have something unique, a unique experience that they're going to have, whether it's an experience as a couple or whether it's an experience as a family with the children. All depends on the experience you're going to offer. And I would even go one step further, is also going to depend on the experience you're going to live in their memories. That's really what's going to be the key. Because if that's a positive one, then on top you will acquire them as a returning guest because they Vietnamese and they will return, yeah. And they will make a promotion on your resort because they will say, hey, you know, we've been there. That's amazing. That's fabulous. That's fantastic. So there's a lot to gain on providing the unique experience every day.
Excellent. I think you made a couple of good points, and I was talking to some of the GM previously into that. You actually have the possibility in period like this to reach new market and really to engage with the Vietnamese travelers and therefore create this loyalty with them, and which will open to the usual a chain of marketing and distribution that hotel will use with the guests that come one time. So the repeat client is something that Vietnam has always been lacking of. So this is the moment where probably a bit more repeat client with your own people. I would like maybe Yen to join a bit of this conversation. Yen, if you connected, please open. And I'd like to know from you on this, can we survive only with the Vietnamese travelers? And if you think that pricing will be important to reduce, or operator will be a
As much I would like to be very optimistic that we can survive just merely on domestic tourism, but I think we can't. The fact that everybody is also trying to eat this pie right now. Everybody want to eat this piece of cake that domestic tourism is everyone want to focus on. So definitely it's not going to be a long-term plan. Just look at domestic travelers. Although I would say that for in the past few years, we are seeing that domestic tourism is becoming very strong. And I still think that for our kind of business, for long-term perspective, whether it's service residents or short stay, we still need international travelers to fill up all the empty rooms. And in terms of domestic market, I will not say that pricing is one of the key factors for people choosing the accommodation and choosing the way they want to stay. I see that a lot of our customers and include our local travelers, they're not only looking for a price, they're looking for value for money. And not just only price sensitive, they would like to have a place that they feel that is reliable and feel safe as well. They can enjoy, have a peace of mind. I think health and safety is the #1 concern, priorities for everyone, being you and me or any of people. So there's no difference whether it's local travelers. So price is important, but it's not the most important. So if all the hotels or include us, we continue to focus on pricing and all the promotion campaign, we will not be able to survive. We're just going to kill each other. So I don't want to go into a price war where we definitely, I heard our colleagues and actually has shared that price is important, but we have to look at other attributes for our product that the customer want. Right? So what we also, in terms of Ascott, we also take advantage what we are good at, We have been very, very active in organizing all the activities for programs for customers that they feel whether being for short stay or long stay, they can still stay with us. They still can have fun during this period. So we even, like last week, we have conducted cooking lessons and in one location, but it podcasted to all of the properties, including Nha Trang, our citizens in Nha Trang and Hoi An can join. So actually that is something that I see people enjoy. And after we finish our first session, and a lot of residents say, when are you going to have another one more? So I think that is important. Yeah, so it's just about the price. So in overall, I still hope Vietnam can open up the international border soon, and just the rest of the countries. And we cannot rely on just only one country. We need everyone to come in. And I think COVID-19 is not Vietnam's concern, it's not my concern, it's everyone. So we need to be together with the rest of the world to fight against this COVID-19. So when people feel safe to start to travel again, I think we have a good chance. But for now, let's look at welcome our Vietnamese and to our properties.
And
yes.
Thank you. For your part, please go to Hannes. Are you still there with us? If you connected, yes. And do you like to add something? I mean, you are very much against this price war, but do you think at some point the whole market will have this adjustment into the price to adapt to what a lot of people will define as a new normal, or we will be back to the 2019 rate and 2020 rate soon?
The rates were already very bad in 2019. So how much lower do you want to go?
Depending on the point of view, as a developer or as a hotel guest.
Developer.
A very good rate.
Like Ken said before, you could also see it currently in Hong Kong, where they didn't lower the prices because people who have to go there will still pay the price, the normal price for hotel rooms. There's no point of lowering the prices. The thing is really, when we talk about 4 or 5 star hotels, if you have the choice, given that revenue is the same, higher or lower occupancy, always take the lower occupancy. I'd rather have a high ADR, a high RevPAR and the low occupancy and the same revenue, because the guest experience is so much better. Luxury stands for privacy, stands for the space that you have. So if you start to just pump your hotel full with cheap prices or cheap paying guests, you just achieve exactly the opposite. You completely destroy what you actually want to stay for. The other thing is, as soon as you increase occupancy, your operating costs will be higher, your maintaining costs, the replacement costs, all the things that go in there. So it's actually much better to focus on a certain quality of guests. What it also means is, when we talk about packaging, right? People like this no surprises, so they pay one price, all the meals are included, and that's it. They go there, they sleep, and that's it. The big issue with these strategies is that they don't spend anything in the resort, particularly when you've got resorts that have got nicer villas or have got kitchen facilities. They will start to cook by themselves. And we have seen supermarkets literally delivering food or ingredients into their hotel. That's a reality. Some people were actually even considering in other hotels to take out the kettles, because people use them to make instant noodles. So it's really, you're getting into a clientele you probably want to think a second time. And the issue really being, like Ken said before, and I fully agree, lowering the prices is easy. It's everybody can do it, will have a certain effect right away. But bringing the prices up again is pretty much impossible. And I would be very, very careful with this. And I know it's encouraged by the government. I know they've got the hotel stimulus prices. We have seen travel agencies to do that. But there should be better ways to do it if you really want. And like you said before, these pricing or these packages, right? the whole idea of a package is not only to open up other distribution channels, but also to kind of, I don't want to say hide, but to hide the real price of the hotel room. So it will make it easier. And then you've got all the extra benefits in there, because publishing a really low rate does not help anybody, because you will always find somebody who is cheaper. That's not really a problem. So you're not going to win that on the long run. The question is really, when you look at the very local market, you will have a shift in your operating cost structures. Really simple things like your buffets. Your buffet's going to look completely different than you would have international guests. You will have completely different eating times, different table sizes when people book and sit there with the whole family. It changes the whole operations of the hotel. Some things become more economically, some things become a little bit more complicated. But that's the things you need to look into. But it's really depending how good you've got your costs under control. How much occupancy do you need to break even to survive? And then the word survive, it defines surviving, right? If it's only about being operationally having a black zero, I think you can do it with the local market, but it doesn't help you with anything from your investment costs. And that's going to be a big problem. And like you said before, there is pressure in the market, and there will be blood on the streets once the first hotels are not able to satisfy the demands from the banks or their investors. And we see foreign investors looking for these kind of distressed assets already.
Thank you, Hannes. I would like to stay there. I would like now to move to really talking about the travel bubble and invite Ken. But before I do that, today we released some statistic into the construction activity, and we saw that everything is still moving, but 50% actually the project that were about to open this year, actually they were planning to open this year, they will move to next year. So nothing has stopped, but everything has moved a bit lower path. From your point of view, you guys have a few things under planning. You are in real estate, but you're also in the banking sector. Do you think all this situation of lockdown will affect all the construction activity, or people will be able to look into long-term financing, will be able to overcome this short-term problem, and the country will keep moving ahead, or we'll see a lot of slowdown in construction?
Okay. Sorry, Ken. I just finished this one quickly. You will see slowdown in construction simply because people are not going on the construction side. Workers have to come from other provinces, particularly if you've got bigger projects. It will be difficult for them to travel. You will have issues on the cash flows, where people think twice about sinking money now in construction. And the thing is, when you open the hotel, you must be ready, right? And if you open too late in the year, you miss the complete season. So either you miss the winter season or the summer season. That can be a big dent in your bottom line. So it makes sense to move the hotel opening and maybe focus on training, maybe delay the construction a little bit. But right now, it's maybe also the time to do some replanning, to think about, do you really want to build everything the way how you saw it? And I think a lot of developers are doing that on right now. And they also have learned what works if you've got current properties. You know what works and what doesn't work. So you will take all these lessons and put them into the non-built or non-finished projects and adapt them to make them fitter for the future, because these things will go and happen again. And from a banking sector, yes, we know real estate is a long-term investment. It's not easy, and we know that there will be delays in construction. Doesn't matter if it's COVID-19 or not. There would have been always delays in construction. But people will be a lot more careful, and they will have a much closer look what you spend your money on.
Are banks there to lend on resort hotel or condo hotel now more than before? Or do you still see banks active into the lending? And also, I'd like to know from Ken later.
Well, I probably wouldn't go and ask at this very special moment. I probably would delay that a little bit. People tend to forget, so in 6 months it will look a lot better. When people think about the thing, but right now everybody is scared about it. And what is happening is that something happened that people thought is not going to happen. And we always say real estate is long-term, high risk. And in a growing economy, it seemed to be no risk and always awesome. And suddenly it doesn't work. And the business is still very young in Vietnam. You don't have the experience of big crises in specific sectors. And I think that's what takes a lot of people by surprise right now. And they will probably overreact on the other end, be too cautious. So keep that in mind when you talk to your investors or your financiers.
Thank you, Hannes. Ken, please give us your opinion into the financing side of all of this. If you think banks are still keen to listen story about a resort and hotel, or just too scared in this period?
I think banks are kind of pulling in their horns a little bit. I mean, we look at credit growth, which is slowed down a lot, and I agree with Hannes. I don't think it's the right time for developers to be going to banks for financing. I think they'd be rather imprudent if they were to start rolling out money for new developments. I think developments that they're already into and under construction, of course, then they do have a vested interest to see them finished. But I think that they're also, I think if you've got a good property, well branded, that is operational or very close to being operational, I think there are a few non-bank sources of funding where groups will put in money for 2 to 3 years, providing they feel confident about the medium term opportunity for a particular project. So. But shall I go on to the travel bridges or the green lanes or the travel bubbles?
Yes, please take us through. I know you are more updated than anybody else into this travel bubble. With Jean-Paul before we mentioned about Fukuoka as a potential one. What is the latest one on the government, on Vietnamese government, into the intention to reopen? Which country and when?
Yeah, so that's the $20 million question is who and when. And when we start talking about who, of course, we start then getting into the political arena and the impact of politics. So, I mean, logically, if you looked at the world today or the region today, you'd say, well, Australia, New Zealand, they've demonstrated no community spread for a fairly significant period. Taiwan, but as soon as you mention Taiwan, of course, then you throw open the big China political scene. So what we're recommending, we actually, Tourism Advisory Board actually submitted a letter to the Prime Minister yesterday with suggestions on opening. Obviously, we have to get the international tourists back. We've got to get them as quickly as possible, but we have to do it in a way that's safe. We don't want to, Vietnam has just done such a fantastic job of containing the spread of COVID-19 that we don't want to blow all that by bringing in people too quickly. So the recommendations are to develop a set of metrics that can be built into bilateral agreements, to get those agreements negotiated and signed with all our major trading partners, with all our major inbound source markets, and be ready to open up to them when they satisfy the key metrics that are in those agreements. We're talking to World Health Organization and CDC about what kind of metrics, other than the demonstrating that there's been no community spread for 30 days and the protocols that would go with people coming into the country. And obviously the government they recognize the need to get this started. The airlines are talking about international flights from June the 10th. So, they're ready to start flying. But yeah, so I think as I say, I think if you look at the markets, Australia, New Zealand, Taiwan are ready. We could start to bring them back. The ones we really need, Korea, China, Japan, the big inbound markets. I think it's going to be a little while, but I think they're all moving in the right direction, and you can see bringing in people from some of the key cities, the major cities in China, because they've actually had no community spread. But then the issue is, how do you stop people traveling from Wuhan to Shanghai and then getting on a flight to Vietnam? How do you actually control those movements? So yeah, Phu Quoc's interesting, but it actually doesn't go all the way to solving the problem, because if you're bringing in people from overseas and there are people that are COVID positive and they're mixing with our local community who don't actually, most of them live in Phu Quoc, they come back to the mainland. So you actually do run the risk, unless you go for the safe haven holidays, which is, we fly in a group from the Soviet Union and we put them into one resort and they stay confined to that resort during their stay, and then of course you reduce the risk significantly of further spread. So I think it's challenging. We're all trying to get our heads around it, and hopefully we'll have a solution in the not too distant future.
Thank you, Ken. That was pretty good, I think. Hennes, do you want to add anything on this travel bubble, this kind of expectation into the international? Not sure if you have any different opinion in what we should do actually to reopen.
No, absolutely agree with Ken on this one. The big markets are China and Korea. That will take some time until we'll get them back. And exactly like Ken said, you can have these agreements with countries that are not infected, have coronavirus under control, but you cannot spread, or you cannot control every single person, which is actually not true, because there are European countries who are thinking of using this quick test before you're allowed to enter the country. Problem is they're really expensive, about I think 200 euros or so. So if people are willing to do that, you could improve security a lot. But again, it adds to the cost of expensive visas and expensive flights already. And if you've got a family, suddenly it's 800 or 1,000 euros extra. People will think about it, because then all the price advantages that you had are just suddenly taken away.
You've also got to consider the impact on travel, because if you've got to quick test 350 people before they board a flight at the airport, you're adding another layer of check-in that the airports aren't really designed to cope with. So I think it's a good idea, and it does help, but I think it's got its own challenges in implementing, apart from the cost.
Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you, Hannes and Ken. I think we're moving to the last question and the last part. Maybe I'll call it back, Ms. Ying, if you're there on us, just to close on all of this. I think we are almost 1 hour and closing almost 2.5 with the whole webinar. Ying, are you there? I need to act quick before you open your microphone and nobody will understand. Yes, thank you very much. Thank you for that. And maybe a bit of can you close the microphone? Okay, excellent. So we've been talking about this travel bubble and have all the different opinions. We would like to have the operator opinion into this part of the strategy that government should choose in terms of interacting with each other. What do you think the country here will do to reopen the business into international travelers? Okay, so we have a block. I think it's good enough then. I think we close 1 hour. We finish at least with a very good smile and a very good thanks. I think it is enough for us and to everybody to finish a webinar in that way. So thank you very much, Nick. Thank you, Jean-Paul, next to me here. Which let me just slide you in. Thank you for joining as well. Let me retake on the slide. So I will just simply close the webinar today. Thank you, everybody. We got a lot of other questions that will not be able to be answered today, but happy to do a bit of interaction. So thanks again for joining. We look forward to have you to the next one. Here is Miss Kyung, which was sitting next to me all the way and helping me with the organization. Myung, everybody wants to know when it will be the next one, when are we doing that, and what are you working on to bring us a bit more information for Vietnam.
Okay, so on behalf of Savills Hotels team, I would like to say thank you everyone for joining us today. We have a huge team who are working now to prepare for upcoming activities. So we look forward to meeting you in our upcoming activity, both online and offline. So goodbye and see you soon.
Thank you very much. Thank you, everybody.